Okay. Well, we are live. This is Better Together doing a election Grand Junction summary and review here with a little bit of analysis. Giving this a shot, doing it live, as I said, and this is grassroots, so um, we're going to learn this all together. But here we go. So you can see at the top, votes cast, we had just under 30% of total voters. That's rough. First and foremost, it's really hard to see only 15,000 of the 52,000 available to vote actually casting their vote. We'll still get some trickling in, I'm sure. Or, we have a really good clerk and recorder in Bobby Gross. So this might be it. And the margins are definitely wide enough with what we got right now to call it. So here are our council members. Cody Kennedy is reelected with 8,947 votes, beating Alexis, who had 6,020. Laurel Cole, obviously, unopposed, so took it away with her 11,222. Then we're going to go with the Robert Ballard versus Randall Wright's race. Now, this one, I'll be honest, I thought incumbents were going to just take this thing. I was pretty secure on Cody. I thought Randall would have overall name recognition, local doctor, as well as incumbent, but the incumbent advantage did not work. He lost by 1,300 votes, give or take, 8,000 to Robert, 6,700 to Randall. Randall was closer than Alexis, garnering about 700 more votes. And then our last race, again, I was honestly leaning towards Ken on this one. Name recognition, long time in the community, although Van Dyke has been here for a long time as well. But Ken did lose it here by 12, well, no, 1,000 votes. So this one is going to be talked about a lot. It's pretty straightforward. Look, you can see Laura Houston, although dropping very early, still garnered 1,300 votes. So more than the separation. And before people start firing off at Laura or whatever you want to do, like, no, I firmly believe that there aren't spoiler candidates. Laura could have easily had pulled from Ben as much as Ken. It seems like folks were just kind of didn't like either, threw their name in. I mean, that's still very impressive to get 1,300 and not even run. So good for Laura. And yeah, so this is a swing. The council definitely has been liberal. I would not call them progressive, but certainly liberal bend in the last few years. And we're going to see a big shift, at least in regards to rhetoric and potentially with how they operate as a council too. So overall, a big change here in regards to what I was predicting, in regards to a lot of folks were thinking. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Well, first, let's go over the issues. So, council getting a pay raise for the next cohort coming in, not this current one, but down the road. Oh, no. 2A, my bad. 2A was actually the moving the elections to November, so off years. So that's good. I think the city was trying to run elections themselves, wasn't working out too well. Nothing against them. It's just a really hard thing to do, and the county's already been doing it for, you know, ever. So it's good to put that more in their hands. They'll be running. My understanding is that would cause city and school board to be running at the same time. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that will be very interesting to see how that dynamic plays out. And then 2B is the one that was going to increase and get some salaries going for city council members, which I do agree with because right now our council is made up of business owners and retirees. And well, with Robert joining, we'll actually have a working class council member. So that's honestly a good thing. While, our ideas and thoughts on how things should proceed might not agree, I do appreciate having a working class member on the city council. So you can check that out. This is all on the Mesa County elections website. Again, Cody Kennedy reelected, Robert Ballard with the upset, um, his first term, and then Ben Van Dyke securing the win as well. So I'll stop sharing. Obviously, the biggest thing we have here is Fourth and Fifth Street. Um, Sadly, it's disappointing that Fourth and Fifth Street would be such a major issue to run on, but it's the most obvious. People will drive it. I really don't care. I've never really had that much of an issue. I can understand why people are upset. The parking's harder. I don't even play with parallel parking. I just go my own way and find easier parking, and walk some distance. But it sounds like, all the candidates were kind of in line with doing some adjustments, versus complete overhaul. So major issue with Fourth and Fifth. There's nothing the council, Randall could have done to get away with that or from that. But I didn't imagine how much it would have played into it. I think the resource center was a major one as well. And with the 90-day compromise, maybe they were hoping to, split some difference there, at least take it out as a non-issue. But the biggest thing, and why I titled this, nothing in the middle of the road, it comes from the saying, I think it was from Senator Hightower, out of Texas, but there's nothing in the middle of the road but dead armadillos. So what that really means is, look, you got to run on something, and you got to run hard on it. Credit to Robert, he was like, I will dismantle Fourth and Fifth Street. He's like, I'm sick of it. I don't want it. It's terrible. And that's pretty much what he was known for. At least that's what I pegged him as. He talked a little bit about, being tough on crime and a couple other things. But besides that, it was a no on Fourth and Fifth. And yeah, you know, take it, do it, have a stance. And it's what I pointed out in the piece I wrote on this too, is like, we have to really understand where you are, who your voters are, and double down. If I thought Ken's biggest statement right off the bat, and I wish he had pushed harder on, was he was going for the month to month on the yearly lease, or the full lease going month to month for the resource center. And if he had pushed that, he could have gotten a bunch of people on board with him to say, no, I refuse to let these resources slowly die out, which is the compassionate compromise that we're dealing with of, oh, I guess people only need food 3 times a week or 2 times a week in the last 30 days. But running on something gets people out there to knock on doors for you. You could have had dozens of volunteers that love the resource center, that use the resource center, that could have been out there on doors knocking for you, getting it done, getting your name out there, and really turning this race. 1,000 votes, it's 500, really, because you got to think about flipping votes. So you got to 500 people. You have 25 people that volunteer for you because of your stance on the resource center, and that issue being your opponent's number one issue too. That could be a race. I mean, this is all going to be 2020 hindsight, what have you. But, the biggest thing is, if you're thinking of running, and I say this as someone that I ran as, like, I'm just going to be straight up. I'm just going to focus on, more teachers and small class sizes and making sure that our schools have libraries. Bang, bang, bang. Things got away from that. And so you really have to find the issue that is being talked about. So it's Fourth and Fifth in the resource center, and double down on it. Whatever your position may be, push hard on it. Jason Wynn, current council member, is pushing hard on Fourth and Fifth. He believes in it, and we'll see what happens to it I hope he runs again. I think he's a good guy. So, he's coming up in 2 years. And people appreciate to know where you're at. But if you're just kind of like, well, maybe we can extend out the bike lane a little bit, or, move this pylon further down the road, all these things are really going to just turn voters off. They're not going to know where you're at. They're not going to know what to trust. And so at least get out there on the issue and be different as best you can. So, just my quick analysis there. I think for Alexis, Cody is a juggernaut. He's a solid candidate, solid campaigner. He works really hard at council. You got to give credit where credit's due, and he crushed it. Alexis was just kind of, I think, is a great person. I've seen her around at several events. She cares about the community. That's fantastic. I hope she'll like try again, keep going, keep learning, get on a committee, all these different things you can to really build up that experience, because that was probably her biggest difficulty, was just not having the knowledge. And that's not on her. She just kind of got recruited at the very end and put up a fight, and that's great. That's what we want to see. We got to give voters choice. So when it comes to next steps, so we have candidates, now elected officials being sworn in I think a few weeks. And the first step generally is to select a mayor. So our city council actually votes on who should lead the council, be president of the council and referred to as mayor, and as well as mayor pro tem. So the backup mayor are all decided by council. And the way it's looking is, I'm sure he doesn't want it to be said, or, maybe he's still figuring out, but I'm calling it. It's probably going to be, no, it's going to be Cody Kennedy. We're going to have Mayor Kennedy. And I think it's going to be a new look, a different dynamic for Grand Junction to really to see somebody that puts in that amount of effort and I'm not saying other mayors haven't, but the effort plus the visibility, I don't think I've ever seen. So we're going to have Mayor Kennedy. And the thing that I'm pushing for, that I would like to see, if we're going to try something different, let's get Mayor Pro Tem Scott Belfus in there. All right. You have two guys that just finished up 2 years on council, both of them, that were many times in the minority. Actually, Scott Belfus voted in the minority more than Cody Kennedy, against the more liberal established board members. And so, or council members. So Cody and Scott, and I mean, I remember that the Western Colorado Alliance Forum, Cody was constantly putting, Scott and I talked. I saw Scott over at this building conference. Scott and I have been discussing this. Let's team up. Let's try it out. Something different. Give us some energy into this city. We need it, because what's going to hit really, really hard very, very soon is this city is run off of sales tax. It is run off of the backs of consumers. And if you're watching this, that means that you watch the news and you are aware that massive tariffs have been expanded across like all sectors of our consumer economy, which is a tax, which is going to be at least a 10% sales tax on almost everything you're paying for. And manufacturers in the United States can also increase their prices and still stay below competitors. So we are receiving a tax, and that's going to hamper consumers, and that is going to hamper the city budget. So there is going to be some very serious decisions coming out of this council. And I want them and hope that they'll stick by what they put forward. And the biggest thing that I remember them putting forward is Orchard Mesa Pool. And as you all probably know, I've been part of and on and off and just support where I can, and then, go do other things. But Orchard Mesa Pool Committee, I'm still working with them, still giving guidance on and off of it, helping out. And we need this pool fixed. And you all promised, gave your commitments to getting this pool fixed. So let's start there. Let's start on a high note. Let's get this thing done. You just get a new boil in there. Awesome. Thank you. Excited for that. Let's build upon it. Let's get Orchard Mesa back into a fold. We'll have a representative from Orchard Mesa and Robert, so we're excited for that too. And this just needs to get done, and it's a great way to start off. But again, overall, the city council election is done. It's a long campaign, and I'm sure all candidates, honestly, whether win or loss, are relieved today, and they deserve that. They deserve every single candidate deserves our thanks for running. It is so important for a democracy to have candidates that are willing to put themselves out there, to willing to take the slings and arrows coming from voters and put your name on the line. And it sucks to lose. I get it. And that's why I think, that's what this has all been about is if you're committed to running and you're committed to doing this thing for 4 years, it's really my hope that you'll stay committed and that you'll continue to serve your community as you had planned to do. And also recognize if you want to get out of here, if you want to get out of the light, go for it. That's totally fine too. So new council, new mayor, new mayor pro tem, and we're going to see how it goes. The biggest thing that you can do right now, if you're watching this and you want to make a difference in how this is about to operate for the next 2 years, reach out to the new council members. Say hi, say congratulations, say what you are interested in hoping for. Look back on their websites now before they all shut down, pinpoint some items that you care about, reach out to them, let them know that you also care about those things and how you're going to work together to achieve it. Everyone does this. All the big players do this. I've talked to council members and candidates that have won that I've supported that were opposed by many different organizations, high profile organizations, chamber of commerce types. And their first call was from those people that did not endorse them, did not support them, supported their opponent, but they recognize where power lies, and power lies in the elected officials. And so to completely turn them out or turn them off is not going to be helpful to whatever cause you have right now. You can work with them, you can find that common ground, and then in 2 years, you can look to try and defeat them. It's just part of the game. But honestly, if you work together, if you find that common cause, things need to get done because we are in the thick of it right now. Things are really starting to fall off our car here and as a nation. And so we really need to buckle down locally. We really need to work together. We really need to embrace a future that will help all of us. And so the best and biggest way you can do that is really reaching out, finding common cause, organizing your community, come with solutions. Because these folks, they're pretty wide open, not a ton of hardline policy. You're not going to get much leeway on 4th and 5th Street. But maybe we can open Whitman Park. Maybe we can find a real long-term solution for the resource center that can help more people. That's not, groups are just pulling it together right now and they're doing a damn good job, but they're also just pulling it together when it comes to the resource center. It was a stopgap measure, and we as a community deserve more for our unhoused neighbors. So if you believe in this, you have council members that want it moved. Okay. So we can have it moved, and it should be moved to a permanent location that's solid. So find that commonality, work on it, work together with some of these folks that do want these changes, and we might get something done. And overall, I mean, however this election was going to turn out, this is kind of the same analysis I'd be giving because things have been rough. I've been pretty bummed out by the last 2 to 4 years of how the council's operated. And doesn't mean that I'm stoked for a new one. I was gonna kind of be blasé across the board because at the end of the day, my biggest realization, and I hope your biggest realization, is the power still lies in your hands and the hands of the people. And so when we continue to identify things that we want, we have to organize around them, agree upon them, and push forward. So I hope we can show you that as a community when it comes to something like the Orchard Mesa Pool. We've been organized for 5 years. We've been working our tails off for 5 years. And now's the time to do it. So we're going to do it. And when it comes to the resource center, there's a lot of fantastic, good people. And we got the 90-day lease extension. Good. The compassionate compromise is rough with the scaling down of services. Not something that I would have agreed with, but that's sometimes how you have to get the unanimous vote, and that's fine. But we need to push hard to make sure that we have a good place for these folks to land, that they can receive services and they can get healthy, they can get jobs, they can get housing, they can get everything that they need to be successful. So that's going to be some of our next steps. And I don't think that this council will refuse that. If I know local politics enough, people are looking for help as decision makers. And so we have to be ready to provide that help and be straight up with them. So with that being said, next election coming up is school board, November. That's a very short 7 months away. Yeah, it's going to be here quick, and it's just going to be crazy. But in the meantime, let's stay focused. Let's meet our new council members. Let's be happy. Let's work towards those solutions that we can find. Well, you can be sad too. You can be sad too. It's okay. It's okay. But let's be ready to move forward and move quickly because our community needs you and we need each other, and we'll do better together. The last plug I'll make is this month is focused on our local labor unions, especially our public labor unions. So we've been reaching out to labor leaders, and we'll be having them on this month, all leading up to our May 1st, our May Day big announcement and celebration for Better Together. So I hope you'll be ready to tune in live for that. And in the meantime, just stay tuned for our upcoming interviews. And again, want to thank all candidates, Alexis, Cody, Randall, Ken, and Laurel for being willing to be interviewed and share your thoughts with this community. And I'd also just like to thank Robert and Ben for running. And Miss Houston, I hope you run again and stay through. Alexis, I hope you run again. I think those experiences are just so important. We need folks like you running and staying engaged. So overall, thanks everybody. This was the Better Together analysis. It turned out differently than we thought, but we're excited to see where we can take this thing. So thanks all for tuning in, and let me know what you think. See how we can do this thing together, and have a good night.